Hi, my name's Rob, and today we're going to be taking a look at how you can get started building applications for Sitecore's newly released marketplace. So, let's dive in. Okay, so before we start diving into how you build apps, I just want to talk a little bit about Sitecore's marketplace, where the key extension points are, and some of the elements you're going to be provided with as a developer building for it. So, what is Sitecore Marketplace? Well, it is your central hub for extending and customizing Sitecore products to meet your unique business needs. But what does that mean? Well, it means that you can now customize the SaaS-based experience that all your editors and marketers are going to get. You can actually tailor it to the specific use cases they need and deliver exactly the functionality that they require. There's two different types of marketplace apps, and we launched custom apps very recently. Custom apps allows you to build an application yourself, host it wherever you like, install it in your environment of choice, and make it available to your marketers and editors. Sometime in the near future, we're going to be releasing public apps, and that will provide a list of publicly pre-built applications that you can also install into your environment to enable your marketers and editors to get the functionality that they need. So custom apps are available today, and public apps are going to be coming soon. I do want to talk a little bit about the different extension points and where you can hook into the SaaS UIs though. First up is the standalone extension point. This exists within the portal application and allows you to create applications which are rendered in full screen when they're loaded. When you get into portal, you'll see a small menu of items at the bottom which will show the applications you have installed and available to you. Next up is the full screen extension point. This is similar to the standalone extension point we just saw in that it renders the application in a full screen display, but this time within the portfolio or sites application. You can access it through the little jigsaw piece in the header menu, and that'll show you which marketplace apps you have installed and available for this environment. Next is the Pages context panel. For these applications, they're rendered in the left-hand panel inside of the Pages application. This allows you to create customizations that interact with the Pages app itself. You can also hook into the different events that are fired from the native SaaS UIs here. So for example, if someone changes the context page they're looking at, your app can react to that event and handle the change in data the same way the Pages application itself does. Next, we have custom fields. This has been a really common request we've heard, and now it's available for everyone. You can now create a custom application providing a dedicated UI to selecting a specific field value. Maybe you want to pull data from a third-party system, or you want to create an intuitive UI for doing something like a color picker or an icon selector. This is all possible now. Finally, we have dashboard widgets. These are again rendered in the sites or portfolio application and allows you to add key data extension points into that bottom panel of the page. This means you can expose the data that marketers and editors need in the location where they're working every day. I just want to touch on some of the developer assets that are available as well, and these are what you're going to be using daily when you're building marketplace apps. So first up is the SDK itself. This is how you can build apps and hook into the various marketplace extension points. It's really nicely put together though, because you get some key features. All your authentication and authorization is automatically handled for you. You don't have to worry about any of that. You also get some key tools and utilities. The communication between your app and the Sitecore unified API layer, that's all handled for you. You don't have to worry about that either. You also get some key API modeling available. You get access to the XM Cloud APIs themselves. You get access to the authoring and management APIs to interact with the data in your content tree. And you get access to the Experience Edge GraphQL query endpoint so you can interact with your live published data as well. There's some key services provided also. You get information about the tenant the app is installed into. You can get information about the user currently using your application. And as I mentioned, there's also a series of events you can hook into, allowing your app to react the same way the native SaaS UIs do as the user interacts with the applications themselves. We also have some really nice documentation available. There's the marketplace documentation, which will discuss how you can create these apps, install them, all the different extension points, and everything you need to know to get started building marketplace apps. And then we have in-depth marketplace SDK docs as well, Once you're building apps, this is going to be invaluable because it's going to tell you how each of the different areas of the SDK function and what you can use it for. We also have a marketplace starter kit. When you're starting a new marketplace app, this is a great way to get off the ground. It's going to provide you a small, lightweight application with all 5 extension points enabled and simple Hello World examples provided for each. Finally, we have a couple of fully rounded out modules available, open source, so you can see how they were built. We have a Google Analytics module, which will run inside of the Pages context panel, providing contextual, live GA data for the page currently being viewed. And we have a nice icon picker based on Material UI. This gives you a nice UI to be able to select the icon you want to render inside of your component. Okay, so I think it's about time we take a look at how some of these apps are put together. Okay, so I've loaded up the marketplace documentation. And this is going to be your first stop when you're learning to build marketplace apps. You can see if you look in the left-hand nav, we have information about the extension points that are available, about the APIs you can access, and how you can build custom apps. I'm going to hop down to the Marketplace SDK at the bottom though, and we're going to hop over to the Quick Start. This is going to get you up and running really quickly if you want to just learn how to build a simple app. When you look through it, you can see we have prerequisites listed showing what you need to install, and then we have instructions for both React, Next.js Pages Router, and Next.js App Router. It's really simple though. You just create your app, install a couple of packages. From there, you create a hook, which will wrap all the calls to the client for you, making things nice and easy. And once that's finished, you can then go and create a component which interacts with that client. We're not going to do that by hand though. We're going to use the Marketplace Starter. If I hop over to GitHub, this is publicly available for you to use today. It basically takes that quick start we already looked at. So it's going to install the packages, create the hook, and then it's going to create routes for all 5 extension points, allowing you to do simple Hello World testing for all of them. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to my IDE. And this is the Marketplace Starter app open. If we start off by looking in the package.json, you can see there's not really much in here at all. You can see we're running Next.js, and we have the 2 marketplace packages installed. The first is the client package. This provides the vast majority of functionality you're going to be using when you're building your marketplace apps. The second one is the XM Cloud extension package. This provides access to the XM Cloud APIs for interacting with content. Depending on what functionality you're building in your marketplace app, this one's an optional package you may or may not install, and you can expect future extension packs to come down the line, exposing more and more data for use when you're building your apps. So let's start to take a look at the source code. I'm going to hop over first to that marketplace hook that I was talking about. This is the exact hook that was listed in the Quick Start guide, and it provides a nice way to wrap calls through to the client. There's a function in here we'll look at shortly, and when it's called, it basically returns an instance of this interface. You get a client object you can call to access all the API information, you get an error collection in case anything's gone wrong, and you get a couple of booleans which will help you do things like add spinners for interactivity when the client's either loading or it's being initialized. If I scroll down a bit, we have this use marketplace function. This is the function you're going to be calling from the hook, and it basically builds an instance of the client, handles all of the error handling and setting up for you, and gives you a nicely wrapped object that you can interact with. If I go and expand my app directory, you can see we have all 5 extension points created here. I'm going to start looking at the standalone extension first. And you can see we import our hook. Then we call the use marketplace client function from within it. And in this example, we're going to be using the client, error, and isInitialized properties that are returned. In our use effect hook, you can see we check whether there's no errors and that the client's initialized and isn't undefined. And if so, then we start to make a query through. Here you can see how the syntax is formed for it. We're using the query function and we're passing in data, making the request we want. In this case, for the application context. If we remove this though, you can see using IntelliSense, there's a bunch of other queries you can make. You can get information about the current host, about the pages context if you're running in pages, same if you're running in sites, and there's also a bunch of XM Cloud extension apps from that XM Cloud extension package we talked about. So lots of information you can get access to really easily. I'm just going to restore that application context because that's what we need for this call. If we look a little further down at the HTML, all of these extension points in the starter kit are really simple. We wanted to keep it as basic as possible. So all we're doing is making a single call to get the application context here and outputting the data that's returned. So you can see we're getting things like the name, the ID, the icon URL, its installation ID, its state, its type, and its actual URL itself. I do want to take a look at a couple of other examples because they do have a little more complexity added to them. The first is the pages context panel example. In this example, we're doing a lot of the similar thing. We import the hook. We're again calling use marketplace client, but we're going to call this data slightly differently. We get our application data just as before, but we're going to do something else here. We also request the pages context data here, and we subscribe to the events that it's going to trigger. When those events are successfully triggered, we then react to that event data, in this case persisting the pages context that's returned. What that lets us do is add a second set of data output here. So you can see we're getting the pages context data as well. So we get information about the page ID, the page name, the language, and the path. What that means is that as I change pages in the content tree on the left, this data should automatically update to reflect those changes as well. The other one is the custom field widget. Again, this has a slight bit of extra functionality because when you're creating a custom field, you need to persist the data back into the field itself, and the SDK is how you do that. Again, we're getting basic application context data here, but in this control, we output 3 buttons. Really basic, and you can call button A, button B, button C. When you click it, it's going to persist the value back. We do this using the handle click function. And if we look in there, all you have to do is call client.setValue. It's as simple as that. Then the value you're passed in this case, the selected button name, will be persisted back into the field for you. Okay, so I think, first of all, we actually need to run this app locally to be able to connect to it. And these apps are super simple to run. All I have to do is run npm run dev. There's no environments variables needed. Everything will just work straight out of the box with the starter kit. We can see that's now running locally on my port 3000. So let's hop back to my browser, and this time we're going to go over to the Sitecore portal. Now I'm in the Sitecore portal, I'm going to load up this new tab at the top called the Developer Studio. And this is where you can manage all of your marketplace applications. You can see we have a few applications we've been working on here, but I'm going to go and load up my Marketplace Starter localhost app. If we look at how this has been configured, you can see we've enabled all 5 extension points because they're all implemented in the starter kit. If we expand each, you can see we've pointed it to the individual route within the application. We have the standalone app implemented. We have the full screen app implemented. We have a dashboard widget. We have the pages context panel. And finally, we have a custom field. If we scroll down some more, you can see we've pointed the app to run at my local host running on port 3000. And we're just using the Sitecore logo for now. One thing we're going to need to remember is to wire up the custom field. We're going to need to use this app ID. So I'm going to copy this for use later on. Now I'm going to hop over to my apps. These are the apps that I've actually installed in my environment. And you can see we have the Marketplace Starter with all of the extension points listed. If I go and click Update Installation Options, you can see I have this Market Playground testing environment that I've installed it in for testing. So let's go and see it in action. I'm going to hop back to my portal homepage. And first of all, we'll see we have my Marketplace localhost listed below. When I click on that, it's going to render my Marketplace Starter app in the full screen portal extension point we talked about earlier. And here you can see it in action. It's a basic Hello World example, outputting the application context and iterating through the different properties on there to show an example of how you can start to interact with the SDK. Let's hop back to portal though. I'm going to load up the environment. I think first of all, we're going to go into the page builder application. Here you can see the basic skate park. We've used this site many times before for different examples. But if you look above here, you'll see we have this little jigsaw piece which shows there's marketplace apps available to run here. I'm going to load my Marketplace Starter, and you can see down here we now have it load in this left-hand pages context panel. As you can see, we get the application context data as was output before, but you can see we're pulling in this pages context data. Remember I said earlier that we're also hooking into the events? So if I go and change to the About page, you can see the main page for the app will update. But if you also look at the data in our marketplace application, you can see we were able to automatically update according to that event and render the new data out, which means you can start to hook into the same events that Pages is using itself. Okay, if we go over to the Sites dashboard now, you can see we have some Sites widgets available as well. Once more, just outputting some basic hello world text, but again, pulling in that application context and the data out of the SDK itself. We've also got our jigsaw piece back. Again, we can load up the marketplace starter here, and this is the Sites full page extension point. Taking over the full window here, but again, outputting some data from the SDK and the APIs. The final piece we've got to take a look at is for the custom field. Remember that ID we copied before? Well, I'm going to hop over to the content editor this time, and we're going to use that to connect one of my components to that actual application. If I go to my template, project, we have some sites in here called the vertical sites. And if I go and look at my promo CTA, you can see we have an icon field here, and we've got a new field type called plugin under the marketplace types. All I have to do is paste my app ID for my registration into here, and that is how we can wire up our application. If I go back into the page builder now, I'm going to load up the powerful sites. If I scroll down to my promo CTA, you can see we have a little icon here, and that's actually powered by our custom application. If I go and scroll down to my data source here, you can see we can open this application here, and this will render our app inside this kind of modal dialog and enable us to change the icon. Maybe we want to change this to like a thunderstorm. And you can see the app automatically updates, and we'll auto scroll back to the same point in the page we were at before. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a quick introduction to how you can build marketplace apps. I've shown where you can hook them all in, how you can get access to the SDK, and the starter kit that you can use to get up and running really quickly. We're going to have a couple of follow-up videos to this, deep diving into both of those open source, fully rounded modules that we talked about. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for future videos coming soon.